Hello, we're here at the World Forum for Democracy in Strasbourg. My name is Miguel Cijuco and I'm a satellite project presenter from the Philippines, and I'm here with a couple of colleagues who also presented their satellite projects here in Strasbourg. And I'd like to invite them to introduce themselves for us.
Thank you. So good afternoon. So my name is Quentin Hocquet, and my colleague is Ariane. And we both organized with a group of 6 people a satellite event with the World Forum for Democracy, and we chose the subject Transidentity, a new gender equality issue for Europe. So the conference took place last Tuesday on the 15th of November at Lieu d'Europe in Strasbourg. And we were really pleased to see that the room was completely full, so it really shows that people are interested in this topic.
Yes, and before starting, we would like to thank the Council of Europe and the World Forum for Democracy for giving us the opportunity to do a satellite event. We would like to thank also the Lieu d'Europe for their hospitality and our master's degree in European and International Studies from Sciences Po for the help they gave us in the organization of the conference. Maybe, Quentin, you want to talk about why we chose that subject?
Yes, so why a subject on the trans identity is because when we saw the planning of the World Forum for Democracy with all the subjects on the gender equality between men and women, we realized that it was very binary. It was only on men and women, economic equality between men and women, but the question of trans men or trans women was not, they were not about to talk about it. So we wanted to enjoy this opportunity of organizing a satellite event to talk about this. So we wanted to invite 4 people. So we wanted to go from the base, the local, with a growing scope to the European level and the work of the Council of Europe on this issue. So we wanted to have people from the associations, from the civil society to talk about the discriminations they were facing on a daily basis. Then we wanted to invite someone from maybe the political level in France, the national level, to talk about the discriminations. And we wanted to also to invite someone from the Council of Europe to talk about how the work of the Council of Europe was improving the lives of transgender people. So we invited Cornelia Schneider from Support Trans Strasbourg. We invited Elliot from Collectif S Trans. This is the civil society parts.
Yes.
Then we invited Hélène Hardy. She was a candidate of the Green Party in France at the general election. She was the first trans woman to run for an office of deputy. And then we invited Eleni Tsetsekou. She's the head of the sexual orientation and gender equality unit out at the Council of Europe. So Ariane, tell us more about the main points of the conference.
So as you said, we talked about, we went from a more local to a more national and European point of view. On the European point of view, we noticed that there are legislations on the European level where at least, for example, you have the Council of Europe's recommendation from 2009 on the subject of trans identities, transgender rights. And you also have in France, for example, a law facilitating the change of name, or before that you had an obligation to prove that you were sterile. You had a sterilization, and since the 2016 law, it is not obligatory anymore in France. But in fact, on the more local scope, we saw that even though there are these national and European legislations, they are not followed, and there are still a lot of discriminations on the local point. We discovered that thanks to people from SDS, Support Trans Strasbourg, and Collectif S Trans, really gave us examples of what was happening today. If you take the example of the name changing, someone that wants to change their name, they're just supposed to go to the mayor's office and just ask for it to be changed, and they're not supposed to give any paper. But many in local institutions nowadays still ask for medical papers, for other papers to prove whatever situation you're in, and those protocols are completely illegal. But for the community, it is really hard to fight against those discriminations, because we see also in a national and local point of view that there's a big precariousness of the situation for many transgender people economically. The access to the job market is very difficult. A lot of people either don't find a job because they're transgender, or they lose their job or have to quit their job because they do a transition or they're transgender too. So the economic insecurity of many transgender people is the main priority for them, and then the discriminations and the activism, they need to be because of the discrimination and the existing laws that are not respected. It's very difficult for these communities or the transgender community to fight against that, because their priority from a day-to-day basis is to just have an economic stability, which is really hard. I don't know if I make sense.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Can you tell us the next steps for this project, having done this conference quite successfully with a lot of people who are interested? Where are you going to go with this, with all the challenges that you have in front of you?
For us, this project was really an opportunity to go out of this binary vision of transgender, gender equality. I think that going forward, when we speak about gender equality issues, we have to go out of this vision of men and women's equality. We have to involve what's in between or outside of the scope. We have to involve the communities of transgender people, the people that are non-binary in general, because they're also part of the population, the European population, and we have to their human rights have to be respected, and for that we need to communicate more about this issue, because there's a real problem of invisibilization of the transgender community and the non-binary community in general. We don't know what's happening in Europe for them, and we really need to get more informed in this kind of big events like the Forum for Democracy. If the thematics the subject is about gender equality, we really need to involve other types of gender than just men and women. We really need to give visibility to those problematics too.
Yeah.
And see where we're at nationally, locally, and on European level with the discriminations, the legislations, the recommendations.
Especially, I think, during a forum in which gender is the major theme.
Yeah, yes, I think it was more about like publicizing the theme of transgender in a non-transgender community, so in the cis community. Yes. And I think one very positive aspect of our event was to put together cis people and transgender people. And
have a discussion.
we had a discussion after a very informal discussion after the event, and people were really they wanted to continue the discussion even after the event, and maybe this is gonna put us more on maybe another event on the same issue to try to make this problematic more and more public.
For us, it was a very eye-opening conference. I personally had never had the opportunity to discuss with a transgender person or have this kind of event, more formal, with information coming from the people that are in the communities or have the problems or are victims of the discrimination. Because you can read as much as you can, but having this visibility, it was a great opportunity, and I'd like to really continue. And I think a lot of cisgender people need to get informed on this subject too.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It has to be part of the debate when we think about gender issues and LGBTQIA plus issues too.
Yes.
I mean, equality is not equality if it's not for everybody.
Involving everyone.
Exactly. And I have like one of a good friend of me in my master. he came back to me after the event and he told me like, thank you very much for organizing this event, because I really didn't know anything about this problematic. I didn't know like all these problems that they were facing in terms of economic precariousness, as we talked about, in terms of discriminations. Like there is one Elliot from Collective Estrans who said that despite the changing of the law and despite like the law and something from the services of the City Hall of Strasbourg, like someone refused to change the name, like his name, and the name of one of his friends, despite the law and etc. So he really, my friend didn't know all these problems that they were facing. So it was very important for like raising an awareness in the cis community of the transgender that the transgender community is facing.
Yes, because I don't think that transgender I don't think there are that many people that are against transgender rights.
Yeah.
It's just that there's a lot of, if not ignorance, just no one knows anything about it, about this nowadays situation. And it is a very dangerous situation for the transgender community, for the transgender people, because whilst the majority of us don't know what's happening, you have some lobbies. For example, in France, you have medical lobbies that are working against the rights of transgender people, that are putting in obligatory protocols, for example, having to go through a transition of gender, like a medical one, or to have access to hormones. In France, a lot of doctors or the social security, they ask transgender people to go through 2 years of psychological treatment, which is completely illegal. But this question of transgender rights has to be, talked about and debated about outside of the medical realm. But nowadays they're completely dependent on medicine and on psychologists and specialists, and the access to medical treatments is very difficult, and you have some illegal protocols, or they ask for treatments and psychological therapies that are illegal, but they have to go through them. If they don't, they're just blocked in their situation and can't go through their transition. So.
Thank you
just one important point that I wanted to raise is that a lot of people, maybe in France or in Europe or in the world, think that transgender rights, like if you can change your status, like from male to female or from female to male, like a lot of people say, yes, so my child will want to become like a woman, like is it normal? And what we want to say is that it's not going to change anything for like cis people. It's just there is a community of transgender people who are suffering from discriminations.
Yes.
Do we make their lives easier, better, safer, or do we just want to leave them in their precariousness? And Eleni Tsesekou from the Council of Europe said it very eloquently. She said that 80% of transgender people thought about killing themselves. So do we want to let them in this horrible situation of discriminations, or do we just make their lives better?
I think the answer is obvious. And thank you very much for bringing this topic further forward, for advocating for this issue. Are there any last messages you'd like to leave to the World Forum for Democracy and the larger world out there?
Support LGBT rights.
Yeah, but when you think about LGBT rights and gender issue, think about everyone. And education is key. Ignorance is extremely dangerous. I think we can finish on that. Maybe.
And also we should make more connections between cis communities and trans communities to make their problems more, to make the public more aware about their problems.
I think we have more in common than the world wants us to know. Thank you very much, and more power to both of you.
Thank you. Thank you.